Today we have a new radio on the bench. It's a GE radio. I am not sure of the model. There are no markings on the case that I can find. I've did some research online, and the case looks like a GE 216A, but I cannot find any wiring diagrams for the 216A. I looked through some message boards, and apparently the 216A is extremely similar, or if not exactly the same wiring diagram as the 153, the X153 made by GE. The X153 uses a ballast tube, and I kind of peeked inside of this when I first got it, and it looks like it had a ballast tube, but no longer has a ballast tube. I don't know, and two rectifier tubes. It uses two 35 Z5s. I kind of peeked inside there, and it's got the same it's got the same tube configuration as the X153. The tuning condensers, I mean, everything looks exactly like this. We'll get it out and make a closer inspection of it and see what they modified. Obviously, if it's just missing a ballast tube, I don't know if we're going to be able to get a ballast tube for it. But if they've bypassed the ballast tube with some sort of power resistor and one of the rectifier tubes, so they may have changed the configuration of the radio greatly to more look like the 150, the X150 maybe. Maybe they used that wiring, this setup, and eliminated this somehow. We'll dig into it and see. Let's gonna take it apart, but let's look at it first here real quick. Pardon me. You can see there's a hole in the grill cloth right off the bat, and these knobs obviously aren't the ones. From the pictures I've seen of the 216, these look very similar to the original knobs. These two are obviously off of another radio. Somebody just put these on here. But these look like they are the correct ones. That doesn't sound right. The decals are kind of, they're on it still. This one says tone, that one says volume, this one says tune, this one says band. Now I know there's three positions for the bands. Both the 216A and the X153 have a 3-band setup. So let's raise the camera up a little bit. Maybe we could get a better look. Get the angle better. Yes. On the bands. Maybe I tip this forward a little bit more. There are 3 bands. There are 3 bands to this. The broadcast band, a shortwave 1 and a shortwave 2. Both radios have the 3-band. I cannot find any pictures of the 150, the X153. I'm gonna look, see if I can find some pictures of the 150, but I'm gonna spend a little bit more time here yet before I make a decision. But the case is in not that bad a shape. I mean, it does need to be refinished, which I really don't have a place to refinish cases right now. But it does not look that bad. I mean, it's not horrible. I mean, there's no serious water stains on the top. I mean, there are some stains. It's dirty, but you know, not like a plant or a cup of coffee got put on it. It's not too horrible bad. The worst part of the whole case is this, the knobs, and obviously the peeling finish a little bit. But on the side over here, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. There's a chunk of the wood missing on the corner over here. Let's see if we can get that in there. I don't think it's going to show up very well. There's a chunk missing out of the wood right there. That might be pretty hard to replace. But the side's not in bad. You know, it's got the paint, right? To get paint on it, that means it was out when they were painting. Right? But they didn't care enough to move it out of the way or to cover it up properly. But that does kind of indicate that it was out and being used. You know, hasn't been who knows how long it's been sitting. The person I got it from did not play the radios. They just like looking at the radios. They just had them on a shelf, and they like the looks of them because of the nostalgia feel of the radio. I got a deal on 3 of them from this person. Yeah, this end's a lot more damaged. It's got some more problems with the stain, right? But for the most part, see the wood's there on this one. It's not missing that chunk of wood on the corner here. For the most part, the radio's here. All of it except for the back. Now the back of it is not the original back. This to me looks like somebody took a chunk out of an old tube radio, or old tube TV back, and cut a chunk of it to fit. This is what it looks like to me. There's a wire sticking through here. I don't know if the original cord, no, the cord is toast with peanut butter on it, but we might be able to make that work with some jumpers. Yeah, this don't look right, you know. Obviously these screws that were added on here. Move you back just a little bit more, get a better picture. Yeah, obviously these aren't correct. So let's get the back off of it and get a look at the inside of it real quick. Oh, and the GEs had the decal, the model sticker and stuff on the bottom. And you can see where it was here. If I get the maybe I can get the flashlight in here. You can kind of see where it was right there at one point. I do not see any other markings on this, so we'll have to get this apart and take a look at the chassis itself. I've done a little more looking online, and I'm leaning towards this being a 216A because of this. These cities are listed are international. The 216 was made for export only. Well, export. Not to saying that you couldn't buy one and have it in America, but it was designed to be a worldwide radio. Not a traveler, but it was made for export, is what I've read. And this makes sense to me that if it was sold to the domestic market here in the USA, that it would not have Tokyo, London, Berlin, London, Moscow, right? And Central America. I guess it could be possible if it was sold in North America that it would have Central America and Colombia, Venezuela, you know, but not India. So I'm assuming that this could possibly be a 216, an X216A. From what I've read, the X2, I cannot find a schematic for the X216A. But from what I've read, the X153 is very similar because it could be dual voltage. So we'll get the chassis up here and we'll take a look at it. Well, I got the grill cloth out, or the speaker with the grill cloth attached. Yeah, definitely these threads were obviously connected to the grill cloth. It's kind of funny, the grill cloth has got like a texture to it here, but where it's probably just been smashed, I guess, where it's been screwed in. So this is going to have to get replaced. I wonder if I can just go to the fabric store and get something similar to it. Gold and white. Because the gold color, I think, is going to match when these side pieces of the dial face, and then the white of the lettering of the dial face, I think the two will match. We'll see. And then the knobs were brown, so this is kind of a brown color too. So let's peel this back, see if we can get to that screw. Doesn't look like there's any sort of head where that screw is turning. Alright, let's get the case out of the way for now. Yeah, that's funny. They don't have any... They're just solid. So I wonder if they're like carriage bolts, They have a square cut head that kind of gets sucked into the wood here, and then this one is just non-existent. It's not even like it's missing, it just was never there. This is looking more Frankenstein-y the more I work on it. But the speaker itself, it sounds like it's rubbing. Push over there, it's pretty quiet. You can hear it making noise there. It could just be dirt too. I mean, this thing is probably pretty old. So, how are we going to hold that in place to turn that nut out? And how would that have gotten bent? That's why it's not coming off. This is bent, so that the threads are screwed up on it. And why are they at an angle? How in the world would they have ever gotten bent? How would that have gotten bent? It's got to be pretty soft material then. That bottom one's nice and straight. And it's got to stand off. It's got like a rubber spacer in there. What in the world? Normally the speaker, I would think, would be mounted, but yeah, what do I know? I'm just an idiot trying to fix something here. Let me mess with this off camera and I'll see if I can get this to... It's obviously bent, right? How would that get bent like that? That is just beyond me. That's why it won't unscrew. So maybe I'll have to screw it back down and then cut that flush. And then it'll unscrew. If I redo this, I will secure these somehow, so they cannot turn with epoxy or something. I'm not sure. I'll have to get one of them out, get a look at it. It feels like it is kind of... I mean, that one's bent too. Let me screw around with this off camera. Well, you know, if the speaker is okay, right, then why am I taking it off of the board? Seems like a waste of time. So I screwed this one back down. I will install this one. I put the other screw back on, but I'm just going to leave this for now. The speaker's okay in there. We can check that speaker with the one of two ways, like we've done in the past with the RF signal generator. It's got that audio out. We can hook in and see if this thing makes a noise, right? If it makes noise, the speaker's okay. Another way we can check it is with the signal tracer. We just have to provide some sort of input into the signal tracer to cause the speaker to make noise. So I've always been using the RF signal generator, the Payco G30, because it's got that audio out. So we can put a tone into this. Well, I've got the signal generator audio output turned all the way up. It barely makes noise. So let's try it on the signal tracer. Now the signal tracer So there's a speaker switch on the signal generator. No, the speaker's off. Speaker on. So the speaker off. That is the speaker making the noise down here. That is this speaker making the noise. So the speaker works, it's just really quiet. First thing I noticed right away with this radio was this. It's got a pulley in the front. It's kind of loose, I'm not sure, but it kind of looks like a dial pulley that's really worn out, but not being used. And the dial works like it's supposed to, I believe. It goes from end to end, and when the tuner stops, it's in the, looks like the correct range. I can't know for 100%, but when it was in the radio, it was going from end to end. So there's a drawing on the in the riders for pardon me, for the X153, 153A1 and the 153D2, and it shows a dial cord set up. And they're showing 3 rollers. 1, 2, 3 rollers. Well, we have 3 rollers, but they're not in the correct configuration. We've got a roller here and a roller here. So I doubt it would come here, because it shows it going over the top, so it would never go over the top to here. So I'm not sure. This kind of, I don't have any information on the 216A. It's possible that the dial cord was set up differently. Right? It's possible it was set up differently. So it could be a Frankenstein still. We'll dig a little further. But here's the picture of the dial cord. Here. And it shows going around and then to the dial. Or, yeah, to the pointer. And then down to the handle, right? Tube configuration. Very much matches the tube configuration for the 153. See if I can get to that page real quick. Yes, the X153 tube configuration. So you would have your ballast tube, 2 rectifier tubes, and an electrolytic across the back. And then you've got the 50 L6, the 12 SQ7, the 12 SK7, and the 12 SA7, and your RF coil. So oscillator, transformer, whatever you want to call that. So if we look at the radio itself, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have 1, 2, 3. The electrolytic and the coil. The coil, the electrolytic, and 2 empty sockets here under the tape. So this would be where the ballast would have plugged in, so it's sitting like this. I'll turn this over so it makes more sense. The handle's out the front, the knob's out the front, the tuning capacitor on the left. Tuning capacitor on the left. Let me make this wider for the radio. So it matches this configuration as far as tube placement, IF coils, or IF transformers, matches the 153. So if the tubes are all laid out the same and the tube numbers match, so the wiring diagram would match fairly close, because both radios have 2 shortwave and 1 broadcast. So I'm pretty sure that we can use the 153 schematic for the 216A. I'm fairly certain of it. It's pretty dirty. Man, this thing is dirty. It's going to take some cleaning to get this thing, you know, looking really good. But I don't know if we want to go too far on this radio. That case has got some issues, and we're not 100% as to the radio. The dial, the back of the dial here, not the dial, but the dial face, the backing to the dial face, this has got to be replaced. This looks like crap. And it looks like a piece of a felt would work. Some thin felting material would work to make this look good. And I don't know what the color you would want the background to be. It's pretty faded gray right now, and that's pretty ugly. So let's see what the tubes are. So there's a 50L6 GT. And this has got to be somebody's wrote weak on it. It's a 12SQ7. What is this one? That's a 12SR7 that I got laying on the bench from another radio that was wrong. It had the wrong tube in it. That's a 12SK7, I believe. 12SK7. 12SK7. Oh man, is that dirty under that. And the last tube in the front side of the radio. This has got to be the SA or SK. SA7. 12SA7. I don't know if that shows up in the camera or not, but it's a 12SA7 GT. And it's a Sylvania. GE, they made tubes. So I'm assuming that these are not the original tubes for the radio. I didn't look at this looks like a Sylvania because it's got the black plastic bottom. Nope, it's a Phillips. That's a Phillips. This one is a Sylvania. And that last one in the back here has got to be a rectifier. (35Z5). So that is a rectifier tube. So if it was original, it would have another rectifier and a ballast. So kind of interested. I haven't really flipped it over. I kind of peeked under there and it looks like a mess. So I decided to go ahead and hook it up. I looked at this power cord. Obviously it doesn't have a connector on it, but I have another one that I've made with alligator clips on it. I've hooked the neutral side to what appears to be the chassis ground inside this chocolate mess. Something really funny, I was checking resistance, and from the chassis to the outside of whatever this is has just under or just over 30 megs of resistance from this outside case. So whatever this is, I don't know. I am getting, Well, I'm not going to go there yet, but I wanted to turn it on and see what the amp draw is, because some of my readings were not inducive of this being okay, but I wanted to see what the amp draw is. So I'm going to turn on the, I got it on one bulb, and the bulbs are on. So we'll flip this on. We'll start at about, we'll try and start at 60. Now, so there's right around 62. It's drawing 0.14. It's going back down as the elements warm up, the filaments warm up. So the filament string is intact. Let's see. So this is on-off, tone, volume, tune, band. I don't have an antenna hooked up, but we should hear some static. I mean, there is a lot of noise here in my house area, so let's go ahead and bring this up. Nothing out of that speaker. 0.1 amps. 0.18. Bulbs are really glowing. 20 amp, 0.2 amps, 0.2 of an amp. That's a lot. Got it right around 100 volts. Let's back it off a little bit and put it on 2 bulbs. Let's increase the amperage. Point 0.23. There's 110 volts. Way up. I think the contacts need to be cleaned in that.
Now the NFL Players Association is frowned on this work.
No way. It works.
According to ESPN Football Insider Jeff Darlington, and try to point to the fact that these players are going out there and risking their lives.
That's got to be 710. That's all the way up.
The NFL Players Union is asking agents to bring their clients up to speed on coronavirus guidelines and protocol. Some veteran baseball players are opting out of the 60-game season.